Hey everybody, it's Matt from Eastwood Company. We're here in the Eastwood garage doing another live tech session. For any of you guys that haven't watched this before, I want it to be as interactive as possible. So make sure you're sharing this page, commenting, and asking questions so we can make this nice and interactive. We have Randy that does a lot of the lives and videos as well, sitting over there manning the chat. He is going to be answering any questions you may throw in about this topic or any other questions you may have right now. He's also going to save some of the questions that may be good to ask on camera and shoot them over to me, and I'll be glad to answer those questions on camera for you guys here live. So today what we're talking about, we have our daily deal that we run every day that's 10% and free, 10% off and free shipping. Today's daily deal is our shrinker stretcher combo, which is a really popular one for anybody that's getting into metal fab or metal shaping. This is a great product to have. You need to add this to your arsenal. I'm going to do just a quick tech tip on something you can do with the shrinker to show you guys. We also have our base plate here, which doesn't come with the daily deal, but is a great add-on. Normally what you would do is you take each of these, the shrinker or the stretcher, and you could swap them out in the vise whenever you need them. But if you're doing a part where you may need to go back and forth and adjust, it can be a pain to have to take each one in and out of the vise. So it's nice to have this base plate. You can bolt the two of them together. It has a nice stout plate underneath that you can clamp into the vise, and you can just work back and forth with them all in one shot and stow it underneath the bench when you're not using it. So that's that. So the shrinker stretcher, we have a bunch of videos that we've done over just how they work, what they do, the basics of them. I'm not going to get into all of that today. If you're not familiar with how a shrinker or stretcher works, the style, go to our YouTube channel and you can find the videos that show just the basics of how these work. We've done a bunch of those. So the shrinker, a stretcher, we show a lot of times just doing a flange, and you can make a flange curve like a window channel or something like that. But when you're doing some actual shaping of a panel, it's nice to have this because you can actually make the panel do a little more curvature like you want it to when you're shaping on something. So this is just a little bowl shape that was hammered out on the sandbag, rolled in the English wheel to give us a crown that we have here. So we got a bit of crown on this. And then if we want to actually accentuate the crown or bring these edges around more, what we can do is we can actually put it in the shrinker and work around the edges some more, which we've already done a little bit on this, but we can work around this. Now what I like to do, if you're doing something that's, if this is something that's a round shape like this where you might get lost, if you what you can do is you can just put a mark for your start point, and then you can work all the way around and try and shrink or stretch depending on what you're doing. But in this case, we're trying to bring this edge around, curve it more. So we're trying to shrink the edges to bring it around further into a bowl shape. So you have that start mark, so that way you can evenly shrink as you go around this. So you can start on the edge, pull down a little bit. Now I'm going to do just a little bit of this, and then we'll show you the difference that it makes. So I'm just doing, I'd say, medium pressure. If you're trying to be really accurate here, depending on what you're doing, if this is your final pass, you can actually put a line so you can see where I'm shrinking this from here to here. Actually, for our mark there to there where I've shrunk it more. I'll try and get it in the light so you can kind of see the highlight here. But right there you can see there's kind of a hard line where it's curving down more than out here where it's curving, but it's kind of going off like this. Where this area where I just started to shrink, it's coming down and around, it's curving more to give us, to come around to a sharper edge there. So we're going to, if you want to kind of keep, if this was our final shrink, what you could do is if this piece is cut nice and even, you cut all the extra little areas that maybe flared out off, we could take a scribe I'm sorry, a pair of dividers, and scribe a line all the way around this, and that could be our line here. And we put that in the shrinker every time. I'm just doing it just for a quick, I'll try and match where we were at. Of course, if this was something for an actual vehicle, we take dividers here and just do it. But so imagine that's your scribed line. I just did we didn't trim all the fat off there. But so what you can do is you can go around like I was doing before, and you can put your edge every time right up to your scribed line and try and hit it on the shrinker about the same amount of force as you can. Try and get that muscle memory where you're every time pushing about the same, as close as you can. Now you can really, since this is aluminum, I can kind of feel it move every time, so it's a little easier to tell that I'm getting the movement that I want. And I'm about overlapping half the jaws here every time I go around. So now you can start to see this edge here. Now that I have that line that I drew, we can just keep following that line. That's going to give us kind of that hard, not a hard bend, but where it really starts transitioning, it's going to give us a line all the way across. And then if you want to get rid of that hard, I mean, it's not a real hard line, but if you want to smooth that out a little more, you can put it in the English wheel and we can roll it and kind of blend it all in just to give it, we can bring up this outer part here just a little bit to kind of bring it in. But we can work our way around, but you can see just with the little bit I did compared to here, how it's really brought the piece around. So that's for a bowl shape. That's just a quick tip you can do. Now something you could do, this a great if you need to make something, I guess, that has two flanges on it, for instance, say a roll pan, if you're making a roll pan for the back of a truck underneath the box, or maybe a deck lid for an older car from the 20s to 30s, something like that. Has a flange on either side and has a nice gentle curve to it. There's a way you can use your shrinker to help work the panel pretty quickly and get a nice curve in it. If this was something like for a deck lid, probably what I would do is I would first wheel this area first, just to kind of break the grain and give it a little bit of crown to the panel before I turn these edges. But today I'm just showing you for the shrinker what you can do. So if we wheel this area just to get a little bit of crown to get it going how we want, then we want to have it to have a little more, say, crown, or not crown, but a little more curve here at the end because of how it comes on the back of the car, or if it's a roll pan or something like that, it rolls harder underneath. We may need to shrink more in a certain area. So what I like to do is you can break it up into quadrants. So I measure exactly the same on either side. So all I did real quick is I just took, this is about 12 inches long, I took a tape measure and marked off ½ inch and 1 inch increments on the panel. And I did that on both sides here. So that way, as I'm shrinking, or if you're stretching, depending on what you're doing, I can keep track of, on either side, how many times I've shrank, where I'm shrinking, because that changes how the panel curves in the transition, how you do that. So if we didn't number these and we were just blindly doing it, what's going to happen is you may shrink at 1 inch on this side, and then with no line on this side, you may flip it over and you may end up doing 3/4 of an inch. And then next time it's bigger, and what's going to happen is you're going to get all kinds of highs and lows. It's going to be uneven because you're not going to be shrinking it all the same in one shot. Now you can kind of smooth some of that out with an English wheel to blend the shape a little bit, but this is a quick way that you can do that. The other thing is if you are test fitting this on a vehicle to try and match a curve that's already there, so if it's a deck lid or something that you want it to be on the quarter panel, match the quarter panel, the curve, you may be able to mark, okay, quadrant 8 9 and 10, I need to shrink a little bit more to get more of a curve. We can mark them off and work it all the same. So I'm going to show you that real quick on this. Do we have any questions before I?
No questions.
Cool.
No questions at this point.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I got the 1-inch increments I have actually written down here, marked out. Those are the ones I'm going to mainly be hitting. I'll probably hit these other ones just lightly to kind of help the transition be smooth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take if you want to be real precise, the jaws are split in the center of the shrinker stretcher, and you can actually look at the line you have. Again, if you want to be extremely accurate, we could mark a line going this direction across the panel like that, and we know that our first hit, we want it to be at that depth on every single one on both sides. So I don't have my tape measure here, but you just roughly put that mark there. But you can mark out the same thing. You can mark your line, and we know that we want to go in that depth on every hit on the inch marks to start first. So we're going to go in there. I can line up my shrink mark, and we'll pull down just a little bit till I feel it move. Again, depending how accurate you're going to be, you can mark away. So I'm lining up my line in the center of the split in the jaws, pushing down until I feel it move just a little bit. Since it's aluminum, I don't have to push too hard at all. But steel, you may have to push a little bit, put a little more force into it to get the metal to move. But you don't. One of the keys is you don't necessarily want to put a full bite in on the first pass and pull as hard as you can. You want to gradually work your way into it, just so you don't have to go back and forth and overstretch, or I'm sorry, overshrink or overstretch, depending what you're doing, and cause an issue. Saves the extra work. So I'm going on the inch increments here on my line, just so we get the same depth of shrink every time. So, yeah, I did one pass on that. So, you can see this side starting to get a nice gradual curve there. But you can see it starts to get all funny out in here. You're looking at that's because this side here, we have an edge turned, but it's straight. We haven't shrunk the edge. So it's kind of getting all crazy once it's not crazy, but it's flattening out once it gets into here because there's no metal that's been shrunk to match. So I'm going to flip it over on this side. Same thing. So this is a great way, like I said, the two most common ways I would use this is, well, actually a couple ways you do is, if you're doing like a roll pan, splash apron, if you're doing a trunk lid. Trunk lid pops in my head because I got a couple Model A's right now that need trunk lids. So instead of spending all the money on a deck lid, I can just buy a piece of sheet metal, bend it up, roll it up, bend it up, and then just shrink it like this to match. And you got a $20 deck lid skin. You can put that money into Go Fast parts instead. So same thing, I'm just moving along, 1-inch increments, keeping it about that outside edge there. Trying to keep my pressure as close to the same as I can on each. So now you can see this piece starting to curve. The curve is about the same in here. And I don't see any crazy highs or lows in this panel where I hit it too hard to make it. So if you look at this and you see an area like right here that maybe has got like a peak in it, probably what happened there is you pressed a little too hard with the shrinker that made it shrink too much and gave it a little high there that caused an issue. Or if it's sunken down, you might not have shrunk enough and you didn't pull quite as hard. So now that we did that, I can come back real quick and do my half lines. And I'm going to actually go full depth on those. The half lines. Now I'm going to do, let's say, the first 5. I'm going to hit the half marks at full depth. Feel free to throw me any questions if you have any. Maybe this is pretty self-explanatory. So, what I did is I just hit the first 5 here, the first 5 inches at the half increments at a full pass. And what I did is it's leaving it flat here. I'm getting much more of a curve here. So if I wanted to, we could keep working that area and get it to really curve around on this side. So if this was something that you really wanted to roll underneath, we could keep working this same area and leave this spot go to give it more of a curve to roll under. So you can see it doesn't have side to side, it's pretty flat. So again, if it was something you wanted to have a crown here, generally you'd want to roll it in the wheel first to give it a little bit of a crown first, and then you can kind of go from there. You can work it in the English wheel after it's been shrunk like this. It's just sometimes tough to get close to these edges depending on what kind of wheel you have. If you can get close to this bent edge here, it might be difficult unless you have a real sharp wheel. So that's a quick little tech tip. If you're making a panel that's got two bent edges like that and you need to shrink it, you want to draw out these quadrants and count your shrinks and go back and forth and keep working the panel until you get it to where you want it. But that's an easy way to keep track of your panel so it doesn't get out of control, doesn't get any crazy areas that are shrunk or stretched too much in one shot. Any questions? If not, that's all I got for today. Just a quick tech tip.
The main question we have was, a couple people want to know if they could see the jaws.
Sure.
So just to see how they work.
Sure. We have, I'll show you on the stretcher because it's probably a little easier for Joe to see, to get a shot of. So the stretcher and shrinker, they both work the same way, and I'll pull the shrinker apart for you guys in just a second. So the stretcher, when you put down on the metal, so there's serrated jaws that I'll show you in a second. When you push down, it touches the metal's in between. It touches, and as you pull down, you can see it's that split I was talking about. It opens it up, so it actually grabs the metal and pulls it apart. So as we work down, it's pulling the metal apart. And depending what you want to do, how you want the metal to go. You may want to stretch it or shrink it. But so I'll take this jaws apart. They're pretty quick and simple. We do offer, as I mentioned in the beginning, the pair is our daily deal. It's 10% off and free shipping if you hit the home page. It's right there on the home page. But if you're trying to save a little bit of cash, we do offer one body with 2 jaws, which is leaving a little more work to swap. But what you can do is you can pull these jaws out like this, and I'm going to show you guys from the inside the inner workings. So up here we got our lever is grabbing onto there, and when it pushes down, it's got these sloped blocks that as we pull on it, it grabs and pulls together. And let me do it again. So as it's pushing down, kind of shows you what it does. And then I'll show you the actual jaws themselves. Make sure I don't drop these. So they do have springs in them. So if you do take these apart, they do need to be cleaned every now and then. Like this set, looks like it could probably use a cleaning here soon. But this is the jaws. There's actually, it's actually got like little ridges in there, and that's what actually grabs the metal. So when you pull down on it, it actually can dig into the metal a little bit and squeeze it to stretch it or shrink it. And this little spring here, that's just what makes it come back to its open position. So every now and then, depending if you work aluminum a lot, you're going to get a lot more buildup, a lot more quickly, just because it's a softer metal. But what you can do is you can take some of our pre and a wire brush, like a small stainless wire brush, which we also offer. You can spray some pre and the wire brush and just work in here to clean out these grooves, because over time it'll fill up with just particles of metal, and you'll find that the tool isn't working as well anymore. So it's good, depending how often you do it. I do it every 6 months or so. I'll pull them apart and just hit them real quick. If you only use the tool a couple times a year, just do it once a year. But it's good to clean these just to make sure that they're performing how you want them to work. But that's a good question. Anything else?
That's it for now.
Okay, cool. Well, that's our tech tip today on the shrinker stretcher combo. If you guys have any ideas for future tech videos, make sure you drop us a comment or send us an email. Make sure you're following us on YouTube, Eastwood Co., as well as on Facebook, Eastwood Company, and you keep up with everything that is Eastwood. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later.